Hello, hello, Alisa Meredith here. We are going to be talking today about how influencer marketing can grow your business. And we are joined by Neal Schaffer. Welcome.
Hey, this is so awesome to finally make this happen.
I know we've been talking about this for ages and it just hasn't worked, but you're back in the States. You're in Southern California.
I'm back, baby.
You're back. You're back. So if you don't know Neal, you should. Neal is an authority on helping businesses to transform their sales and marketing digitally. Founder of digital marketing consultancy PDCA Social, and he serves as a fractional CMO, which is fascinating to me. Might have to ask about that, to several different companies. And he also teaches at Rutgers Business School and the Irish Management Institute. You really are international. Yeah, he's the author of 4 sales and marketing books, including Maximize Your Social, and recently published The Age of Influence, which is what we are going to be talking about a lot today. And you're working on your 5th book. Do we get to know what that's about, or is it a secret?
It is going to be a definitive, actionable digital marketing playbook for the post-COVID economy for small businesses. So I'm really, really excited about that. It's still in production. I'll have a free ebook sort of preview of it out soon. But it's funny. We can talk a little bit about that. It's related to companies that wanted help with their influencer marketing that came to me after I wrote The Age of Influence, yet there were all these other pieces that they didn't have in place.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
What we're going to talk about today, influencer marketing, is only obviously part of the puzzle. You need to have everything else in place to be successful.
That's right. Now, when we were planning this show, I said, I want to go at this from a very small business angle, okay? Because that's who is typically listening, and that's who I am as well. So it works out for everybody to kind of have this very small business. And I think a lot of times people might assume that because they are very small, that this is beyond their reach, right?
Yeah, I've done, and as yourself, done a lot of speaking and consulting over the years, and I always look for case studies, right? And all these case studies you find are like these big brands. It's like, if I had the budget, I could do that. So
right.
I agree 100%. Whatever I present, it has to be actionable for any business, either big or small. And I'm really confident. I think people have just been miseducated on what influencer marketing is. And I think, when we start, I've prepared sort of an opening. I think it's really going to clear the air, and there's going to be a lot of nods, and it's going to be like, I get it. How to implement it in your business is going to be a creative affair that depends on really who are the influencers. We're going to talk about that. But I think it's really intuitive. And I think a lot of people have been actually doing components of it for a long time without labeling it as influence marketing.
Really? Okay. If you are listening, please drop in the comments. Jen is here. Welcome, Jen and Phoebe Moon. And Neal is very open to tailoring this to your business. And I told him kind of who usually is here. So drop in what you're doing. If you use influencer marketing, what questions you have. Dara, welcome everybody. So glad to have you on. Okay, we have a lot to talk about. So let's start with the basics. How can influencers help your business, especially if you're small?
Okay, so I want to give a actual example. So in this workshop, Alisa, you presented on yesterday, I talked about this mastermind community that I have, right? So one of the members is a small business from New Zealand. Now, the guy's a web developer, has his own web development business, but he found, or I should say created, I don't know the whole story, but he basically created a handlebar for bicycles that is significantly more stable and gives you a much more comfortable ride than any other bicycle bar out there. It's made of bamboo. Oh, so there's probably a story of how he invented it, created it, but he basically has these bamboo handlebars. He's in New Zealand, like provincial New Zealand people. And these go for $200. They require you to replace your current handlebars with these handlebars, but everybody who rides with them is absolutely blown away with how stiff. It's sort of like my wife. We have an espresso machine, and I got her this $15 milk frother, and she used it for the first time today, and she was just blown away. Like, I put in this much milk, and it's this much froth, and it's so sweet. So anyway, the same thing for all these that are nodding with the handlebars. So what did he do? Now, he had bought The Age of Influence, but before I already talked to him, what he was doing was he was going into YouTube, he was going into Instagram, He was checking out blogs. And when he found a bicycle enthusiast that he thought would appreciate these handlebars, he basically reached out to them, said, love your content, created these unique handlebars, but they make especially if you're on a bike, every day or a long time, they really make the riding experience very different. He basically just, would love to send them to you for free. If you like them and you shared them on social, that's awesome. At a minimum, love to get your feedback. And that alone, right? That alone has basically driven his business. That's where his marketing spend has been. So instead of doing $200 of Facebook ads, he gives away one of these things for $200 to someone. And this is not just in New Zealand, but around the world. What happens is when you do this, you get massive exposure. You start getting featured on YouTube, and influence is very interesting. I mean, Alisa, you're not there with like 1 million followers, yet you have a deep influence among a lot of people, both in the industry and everybody listening. So we're just talking about, if I was to ask you who influenced you to do this or do that, you realize sometimes I'm just influenced by customer reviews on Amazon, which is why I found that $15 milk frother, right? Sometimes you see something in social media, or I'm listening to a podcast by Pat Flynn recommending Buzzsprout, and I was on Libsyn, and I won't say that I got Buzzsprout because of him, but he definitely influenced that decision, that if he's using it, I feel good that I can use it too, right? Just for example. So these are ways in which people influence others. So if someone has a YouTube channel of maybe 10,000 or 20,000 subscribers, but gets 10 to 20,000 views showing the bicycle handlebar, I mean, you do the math, you see the exposure, and you see how it leads to more interest, more influencers reaching out, but more business. And what's really interesting is, because it's bamboo and there's this whole sustainability movement worldwide, now he has lots of different conversations going on about different ways in which he can remanufacture that bamboo into a bicycle shoe, or anyway, so there's a lot of different things that are going on. But the whole thing about social media is you got to get out there. And Alisa, we sort of talked about this with Jillian yesterday. You're not organically, it's going to be really hard to get out there. And the whole idea about influencer marketing is you're tapping into the voices of people that are already out there, that already have established communities. You're making friends with them, and they are indirectly promoting you, but they're also helping their audience. And I think that this example is the best way to describe it, because if you're a big brand, you don't have to give away product. But this is why startups, I mean, there are sites, there are influencer marketplaces that are just based on giving out free product. If you go to my Instagram feed at Neal Schaffer, I did one for triumph and disaster. It was called the Rock and Roll Face Scrub. I love face scrubs, and it was made of like volcanic clay. And it was a scrub, but when you put it on, it looked like this big gray charcoal pack. Really cool, right? So it was like a $30 product, but I ran out of face scrub, and they sent it to me, and it's like, yeah, and I might actually buy it, next time I run out, which is pretty soon. So gifting product is huge. Gifting experience is huge. I'll give you a free 30-minute consultation. I mean, if you're a service, if you're a wedding photographer, well, here's the thing, your services are worth a lot of money. Giving something away for free is painful, but I know a cosmetic dentist who will give away free, well, not necessarily implants, but, Zoom whitening services, what have you, to be able to take before and after pictures with influencers to make them happy so that they talk about it in their local community. So hopefully if you buy into that, right, you're not paying someone tons of money, you're gifting them product in order to incite word of mouth. You're trying to make a friend, right? It's sort of like you're paying it forward in essence, right? And it just kills me, Alisa, when these tools companies, I'm not going to name the names, very, very famous social media management tool company reaches out, and it's like, we want you to be our affiliate and we'll give you a commission. And it's like, okay, will you allow me to use your product? It's like, oh, we'll give you a 60-day free trial. It's like, no, I can only authentically promote things that I use.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so true.
And if you're talking with an influencer, and there's only so many people that write blog posts about the best social media management tools, for instance, why wouldn't you give them lifetime access just out of the gate?
It doesn't cost you anything.
Exactly. So that's the thing. I think the first step for small businesses, for influencer markets, what can you provide? And then who are you going to provide that to? This is a whole other story. We got to get a little creative sometimes. The bicycle handlebar was a pretty easy to understand example. But if a lot of you are really local businesses, it gets a lot easier, right? I work with real estate agents. Who are the influencers in your community? It might be the chairman of the PTA at all the different schools. It might be the religious organizations. It might be financial planners. It might be bankers. It might be lawyers. So you begin to sort of map out, and then how many of these people are on social media. And I'll say the influencer marketing isn't just about social media. It works offline as well, right?
That's true. Yeah.
When I talk to like insurance salespeople, I do trainings, they talk about centers of excellence, people that have influence in the community. It's the exact same thing. But if they are on social media, it's just all the more powerful because you're tapping into a bigger community. So I'll stop there, Alisa, but I really wanted to sort of clear the air so that people don't think it's about paying $1 million to someone with fake followers and fake engagement and who are these people and what's the ROI. I think when done right, the ROI is pretty clear. And I guess you could call it a type of paid media because you're giving away something, right? So you can measure it that way as well. You could give coupon codes for these people if you have a Shopify store and be able to measure it that way, right? Or, make sure that if you introduce someone to me, make sure they mention your name to get the special discount. And that's how you measure this if you really want to go that far and track the ROI.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, looking at who we have here for friends, we have a wedding photographer. We have
I knew they were coming.
Yes, I know. A free a quilt patterns and tutorials creator. We have Dara, who's I don't know if she classifies herself this way, but I think of her as a home decor blogger and influencer. So
Awesome.
that's who I can see here. If there's anybody else in the audience, please let us know because we want to really tailor this to you so it'll be useful. Now, I have a question for you. Do you feel like the interest in influencer marketing is growing because of the way that ads are changing? So the iOS changes, making it harder to advertise, the cost of ads just going up and up. Do you feel like this is going to make influencer marketing more mainstream?
Yeah, it's funny. I was asked after I published the book, and I literally published the book when California went on lockdown, right, in March of 2020. And everyone's like, oh, influencer marketing's over. And I'm like, it's not, because the trends are there. Ad costs go up as more and more people want to do ads. It's not like the old days where on Facebook, prices were ridiculously low for those that got in at the time. It's also that people trust ads less and less.
Yes.
It's also that people trust people more and more. There's all this data. The younger the generation, the more they don't trust traditional celebrities. It's like my daughter making some, I don't know what recipe she was making. It's, oh yeah, this TikTok influencer post, it looked really good. It's that sort of world that we live in. It's also the fact that organic reach on business pages it's become a pay-to-play scenario, right? Which leads to the more expensive ad costs. So, when you think about it, in writing my book, if you want to digitally engage, right? Let's go back to the days when we were all in lockdown, but you need to make sales. How are you going to do that? It's all digital. So let's go back to that world, because we still are, I believe, primarily a digital world. That's where I talk about the digital transformation of things. There's three main ways in which you digitally sort of engage with people or other businesses. One is through search. And we love Pinterest because of the search, although it's getting a little bit harder to get organic traffic from Pinterest. That's a subject for another webinar.
That's a whole other topic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic. But obviously Google, YouTube, Pinterest to some extent, Twitter, believe it or not, in real-time search. So you have to have search covered. This is how people find out about you if they don't know you, right? So another way people find out about you if they don't know you is social media. Social media is not search. Social media is purely following people with similar interests, or in the case of TikTok/Reels, it's actually engaging with content or creating content similar to content that others that might be interested in your product are engaging with, because it's not based on following. It's a new way of looking at social media, really. And then, so they find, so the real, here we go. Here's the funnel, right? They find you in social media, right? They go to your website, and then you want to lock them into your email database to keep in better touch and to get those multiple touches to be able to convert them to a customer. And that's it. Those are the three main ways in which you digitally, right, engage. So the social is huge. If you have great SEO, you get people, or you're doing great on YouTube, you get people to your website, great. But if you can't, that's where social comes in. And for businesses, they just can't ignore it, right? They need to be heard. And once again, Alyssa, I love to go back to the early days of Facebook, because I remember, I think it was Smartwater, they were actually forwarding their domain to their Facebook page.
Oh, you're kidding. I didn't
at
know
one
that.
point, because it was so viral. There was so much word of mouth happening. And that was the promise of social media marketing, word of mouth marketing going viral. And I mean, it happens like with TikTok and things like that, but it doesn't happen for businesses, and it doesn't happen with advertising either. The only way to make that happen in a really leveraged social, the most powerful way of leveraging, of inciting word of mouth, is you got to work. It has to go through people. People have to talk about you, right? Yep. And if you're a big brand, people are already talking about you. If you're a small business, people probably aren't. You got to incite word of mouth somehow. And that's one way. I mean, we could talk about other ways, but that's gifting product is a very, very powerful way to get the conversation started and to get people start to talk about you. Obviously, if you're a small business and your business is yourself, you don't have to have a business profile. You could have a personal profile and enjoy the organic, algorithm benefits that go with that, so long as you're not promoting what you do with every post. Like, I talked to a bunch of real estate agents in Massachusetts 2 weeks ago, and it's like, if every post is like an open house or a new listing, you're just going to lose people.
Yes. Your friends are out of there. Yeah.
And more, you got to show yourself. When I wrote The Age of Influence, I realized people will always rule social media. Brands can't get personal. Brands can't get emotional. We can. So I saw Jen Herman, Jen's Trends, who we all love as being one of the most premier Instagram experts, sharing her personal story yesterday on Facebook. I almost cried.
Me too.
But it also just made me more deeply love like her and her work, right? Yeah. And that's the thing. When I wrote the book on how influencers can become, how we can all become more influential, it's sharing more of ourselves and our emotions. And I'm not saying we're trying to game the system, but that's something that if you're a small business owner and the business is yourself, you can do that in a unique way that bigger companies can't. And that's something you definitely want to tap into.
Yeah, it's a great point. Okay. So it is a lot of really good stuff. So is there any such thing as a business that is too small to benefit from influencer marketing? And I think I know your answer, but
yeah. It's funny. I love to give little anecdotes. So I was able to do a full day presentation on like the full, bandwidth of digital and social media marketing to one of the big 5 pharmaceutical brands. Oh. So in the room are brand managers, people that actually manage each one of the, the pharmaceuticals that they sell. Mm-hmm. And everything I talked about, and they didn't ask me to cover it, but I did anyway. They wanted me to spend like half a day on paid ads, right? Like Facebook ads, whatever.
Really? Wow.
The one thing that had the most impact that they wanted to implement right away was influencer marketing. Now they're not a small business, but
no, they're not.
When I told them the influencers are the nonprofits who have the communities of people that their drug is going to help. So why wouldn't they work more closely with those nonprofits for collaborative relationships, right? And you see this offline sometimes, but I hope it begins a new era of more actual help and actual support of nonprofits. But it's just determining who has the influence. So I don't know how small your business is, but once again, if this person talked about your company, who those people are. If they talked about your company and led to a sale, or it led to a lead, or it led to someone coming to your website, who would those people be? Even like the local bakery. I mean, support the local soccer team. I mean, I don't know. Put your logo on their shirts, and then make sure whenever it's posted on social media, you post it. We're proud supporters of the I mean, so it's not just the online, right? We want to think offline as well. I mean, the smaller and the more local you are, the more offline you want to think. But there are those online elements, obviously, we want to try to mix in. But yeah, I mean, who might influence a sale? Maybe with the bakery, it's teaming up with like the nicest restaurant in town. And like my brother has a winery, sort of same thing. Will you serve my wine? We'll give you a discount. We want to get our name on your menu. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe you provide like the local restaurant, like your most deluxe cake, and you put it on the menu and you give it to them at a really ridiculously cheap price, knowing that the influence of being on that restaurant menu is going to serve you well in the future. People will come to your bakery asking for that cake. So it's just, when you think about it, it's something that's existed for a long time, but we're just rethinking marketing. We're rethinking promoting. We're thinking JV, right? Those of us who like, sell course. It's all about, but JV's influencer marketing. Mm-hmm. Podcasters who have no name, who reach out to famous people to interview them on the podcast, that's influencer marketing. They're tapping into people with bigger communities, hoping that they share that with their network, but at a minimum, they get the credibility of working together with them. So influencer marketing, I would argue, is like all around us, and it always has been. And those of us that are in social media, we've been part of it, whether we know it or not. Affiliate marketing is influencer marketing. You're tapping into people with influence, and you're giving them a commission, and it's with a tracking cookie, but it's the same concept. You're not letting anybody become an affiliate, right? They have website traffic, they have SEO, they're active on social. So if you think about it that way, I think that there's no sort of limitation. Now, here's the question, right? Who hires wedding photographers? Where do wedding photographers, if you're looking for one, where do you go? Using the wedding photographer example, right? Is it the facilities that host weddings? Are they the ones that give out the introduction that influence sales? Is it Yelp? Very well, maybe, right? Well, you gotta do more on Yelp then. You gotta make sure that everybody that you've worked with actually writes a review for you. Yeah. That really does help in the algorithm, right? There's a paid social with Yelp. I think like $500 a day might be beneficial as well. So this is why, Alisa, when people came to me asking for influencer marketing help, there's all these other pieces that they need to do. It's not just about the influencer marketing. True. Right. Yep. But hopefully, that's a start. What I'm really envious though, listen, like you're doing art now. So when you do like an art course, you can actually show it visually. I can't really show my work because it's a lot of like B2B consulting. But for the other examples like home decor and crocheting, you can actually show what you're doing. You can create reels, and the wedding photographer can as well. Like, behind the scenes or getting set up, or just like a summary with permission, maybe write it in the contract that you have the right to promote their wedding over social. Most people getting married are so happy they don't really care. Right. But I just, even Facebook, that people say is dead. I just published my first reel. Facebook started supporting reels a few months ago. I just published my first reel. I have, 2,300 friends, albeit, but on my personal profile, it got 1,600 views in 24 hours. Right. So that is the format, right? It's the web story, the idea pin, the YouTube short, the TikTok, the Instagram reel, the Facebook reel. If you can do those, that's how you get visibility. And if you're smart about it and you put in the fact of, who you are, what you do, you'll get people contacting you because you get so much visibility. So think short form video by all means. If you're not doing it, start doing it. I just did my first. I'm committing to doing a few a week going forward. We'll see how far I go.
Yeah, we'll be watching.
That's the whole idea.
We'll be watching. So with the short form video, are you suggesting that that's what your influencers should be creating, or is that what you're creating? How does that work in with influencers? Yeah,
I think part of this is, well, how do I sort of become more influential as well? So that's what I would do. Okay. With influencers, yes. I mean, if basically look at their social media profile. What are they creating? And what seems to be more successful, and ask them to do more of that, right? If you were going to work with them. But here's the thing. People aren't programmable ad units. No. So you can't really say, hey, here's a free product. I'd love if you post a reel. But if not, a post is okay. You sort of need to give them the freedom, because as you know, short form video is very creative, and they may just not feel the creative love, and may not do
intimidating. Yeah.
Right. But hey, we want to republish your work on our page, and reels perform the best. That'd be awesome. I definitely hint at it. And that's the thing. The more influential you become, the more they want to be shown on your page as well, right? And that's where one of the chapters, the later part of my book, is how and why you should become more influential as well, because then it's going to be easier for you to work with influencers, and you're going to start to get a small flow of influencers that actually want to work with you.
Yeah. And Dara is sharing her experience. She said our most recent collaboration asked for one Instagram video and one story. Interesting. So no reels, but okay. That's great.
Yeah, they're all different. And it's really just, that's the thing about influencer marketing is it's a one-on-one thing. Like everybody's different. What everybody's used to doing is different. If no one's ever done a reel before, you can't ask them to do that. But if all they publish is reels, then you can bet that they'll probably publish a reel. So, and this all changes. I mean, at one point the Facebook algorithm favored photos until everyone started posting photos, and then it favored live stream until we got too many notifications. So right now, going into 2022, that's my advice. It's supply and demand. Just way too few people are creating this type of content, but social networks know it is the most sticky, and it keeps people on there longer. Therefore, they can sell more ads. So that's really what it's about. That might change. I don't see Grandma Mary creating reels. So I think that the
Yeah,
trend is going to last for a while until more and
that
more
makes
people start
sense.
creating them.
Yeah, that barrier to entry is a big
Exactly.
factor. Yeah, yeah, and Dara's point was, yeah, it's all about the video now. It's what people want. I want to go back to what you were saying about this kind of local, and I think we think of that more as networking than influencer marketing, but it absolutely is influencer marketing. Just thinking about some examples. So we have a couple of wedding photographers here. Could they make a deal with the local bakery, right? And so they give each other's information out when someone comes for a tasting or for an initial meeting on a shoot, or with Phoebe Moon with the yarn. Like what could she do locally? It'd be like Joanne's Fabrics or some kind of craft store.
Yeah, but she could also on the internet do, free crochet training, do Facebook Lives.
Yeah.
There's that's something that unless you only want to sell local, but if you do e-commerce, I mean that's something that has no bounds. But yeah, local, do a workshop. Hey Joanne's, I want to do a free workshop. Would it be okay if I borrowed your space? And I'm gonna bring in people that would really be interested in buying more yarn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it could be the local library. It could be your Parks and Recreation department that has these like classes mainly for kids, but there's adult classes too. And maybe
Right.
you do it that way, right? To expose what you're doing to the community.
Wonderful. Okay. So, what if you were going to build out an influencer strategy, kind of on paper, picturing it? What does it include?
Well, you need to start with who are the people that you want to engage with. You want to
Mm,
create a list. So if you are an e-commerce store going nationally, this is a lot easier to do. Like the bicycle handlebar, who are the bicycle enthusiasts? I mean, that's going to be a really, really long list. But I would go into social media and who would be the people that would most like, what you do. Maybe in the case of like the crochet, maybe it's other people that do it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a way in which you could collaborate and do a joint course and like cross-pollinate your communities, just as an example. Maybe it's people or companies that make yarn, right? But who you first need to map out who are the people that I want to engage with
yeah.
in order to promote what I'm doing. Who are the people going to be offline? Who are the people going to be online? The more local, the more offline, the more national, international, obviously, the more online. So that's step one, map out the people. Number two is, well, when I reach out to the people, what am I going to say? What am I going to offer? So I would actually make a list of the different things you can offer them in advance. What's amazing,
Mm,
Alisa, is I find when I work with people, even small business owners, they have a tremendous amount of IP, intellectual property. They know a lot of things the average person doesn't know. So maybe the wedding photographer knows how to do lighting for photography
yeah.
or knows what angle, the best angle to take your shots at. I want to give the Pat Flynn example because I actually ran into Pat Flynn for the first time at Traffic and Conversion Summit in San Diego a few months ago. And
Fun.
he didn't know me. And I'm like, Pat, big fan. Can we do a selfie? And I took out my camera and he took it from me and he angled us. He goes, no, the light's coming there. We should stand here. And he just took the selfie for me, right? And then, right. So, and he knows his stuff because obviously he's a pro at it. But that's the thing, a lot of different things. So maybe you specialize in crochet, but you know how to choose the best yarn. You know the different types of yarn, the highest quality for the type of thing that you want to do. Or you know design because you're crocheting sweaters or what have you. So there's a lot of different related know-how that you have. And this alone may be something that people are interested in. This is how you reach out to photographers saying, hey, when you want to do outside photography, I can give you advice on how I do it for weddings. And I'd love it if you introduce me, and maybe you do a workshop for like a free workshop for
Mm,
photographers in your community who don't do wedding photography and say, hey, if you have a need for wedding photography, I give 20% commissions. Please reach out to me or whatever it is. Right.
yeah.
So, what knowledge or product, right. Or service can you provide people? And maybe it is finding that local influencers getting married and saying, I want to offer you my wedding photography for free. I want to support you. I want to help you. A lot of people would definitely say yes to that because they know how expensive it is.
Yes.
All I ask for permission is that, I can use it as a case study and that I can get a comment from, the smiling bride, whatever it is. So,
Yeah.
what can you offer? Then it's about creating sort of a roadmap of an engagement roadmap. So, and I should go back and say, if you're a bigger company, how are you going to measure this? Right? What's the objective?
Right.
But I
Yeah.
think if you're a small business, the objective is pretty clear. We don't have to, do any difficult, 5-page summary of our marketing objective for wanting to do this. Lead generation, more sales, get more people in the door. It's pretty clear. So that's why I sort of skipped that part. And then, the engagement strategy, how are we going to engage? And it really has to be one by one, right? Is it, we're going to make a phone call, make an appointment? Is it, we're first going to engage in social media? We're first going to follow and like and comment, which I always recommend you do. You send social signals. And then after a few weeks, maybe of, getting some engagement from them, you sort of reach out to them. Very, very calm. You slide into the DM, as we say. So that's sort of that engagement strategy. And I recommend one-on-one. And I recommend you're not only looking at 2 or 3 people. Ideally, you're looking at 5, 10, 25, 30 people. Big brands will look through lists of thousands of influencers, and maybe create plans for like 100, 200. They do a lot more automation and a lot more cut and paste, which I recommend that you don't do. So maybe you start with 5, 10, 20. And this just becomes this becomes a major form of marketing that you do together with everything else you're doing, right? But the idea is over time, hopefully you get a little bit more activity, you get more leads. Hopefully they start posting content about you that then you can utilize as user-generated content, so you don't have to create as much content. Yes. And that's sort of how it goes. And hopefully, that list of 20, when you get through them and you're not getting activity, you need to make a new list, right? It's like sales. It's a numbers game.
Okay.
They're not all going to convert, and that's fine. No, not everybody meshes with you. Your vibe attracts your tribe. Your vibe isn't going to attract everybody. That's fine, right? But you will find some people just aren't going to respond. They're not interested. And that's fine. You put them aside and you go on to the next.
Are there some things you would look at if you had someone coming to you and say, look, I've approached 400 people and nobody said yes? Like, what do you look at to try to refine that arrangement?
2 things. Did you approach the right people? And how did you approach? What was sort of the give? What was the pay it forward, or what did you promise them?
Yeah.
So Alisa, I have a new tool out. You can sign up for a free 30-day trial, and we give you 10% commission over the first 2 months of sales. You're not going to move on that probably, right? So it's a similar thing. How attractive is what you offer them? And that's why, I worked with, when I had an agency, one of our campaigns was an influencer marketing campaign where we worked with mommy bloggers before Instagram was very big. And it was a product that helped mommies with newborn babies between 6 months to 2 years. It was $100 product.
Yeah.
Right. So at that price point, there were a lot of people interested in it, but that alone didn't get enough people. So we'd offer them the unit, and we'd offer them an additional unit so that they could do a giveaway for the unit as part of the blog post, and that it'll help them build their list as well.
Right. Okay.
So it's just, once again, you want to make friends. If you want to make friends, you don't want to nickel and dime them. You want to go all out. So I recommend you go out where your budget and time, you have enough of that. But if you're a really small business and your business is it's probably just time. And some of you, if you're here, you have time. You have time to study and do research. So you can use that same sort of time, cut out 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, and offer something of value.
Yeah. I love what you said earlier about, you can do this or you could do paid advertising. Of course, you can do both. But if you think about what you're getting for your investment, especially monetarily, you can't even compare it to what you're going to pay for ads.
Because you're investing in people, right? Not Zuckerberg. Yeah. And that's the idea, is that if you make friends with these people, the ROI is long-term. They begin to talk about you when you don't ask them to. They begin to introduce you to potential clients because you're giving them something for free, sparked a relationship. And they like that triumph and disaster, the rock and roll face scrub. The same example. It sparks something where maybe they turn into your actual advocate. And that's what, when I talk to bigger brands about doing this, I talk about influencer marketing, not reaching out to people you don't know, but actually reaching out to your own customers, your own followers, people that engage with you on social media, that already have a like, know, and trust factor. So if you're a small business, and those should be your influencers, right? And I go as far as saying your own employees, your own partners. Obviously, if you're a very, very small business, you don't have that. So you have to sort of incite word of mouth. But if you do begin to grow and have more people and have more customers, I would try to convert every customer into becoming a brand advocate if they're on social media and they're posting. And that's the beauty. The online aspect is, if you find people that are really active in social media talking about things that are very, very important to what you do, then obviously that's where the long-term ROI comes in, where they may talk about you repeatedly on their social media profile.
Yeah, I've seen a really good example, and Chewy is kind of a great example in a lot of different areas in customer service, but they also turn all of their customers into potential advocates. And the way they do that is, hey, if you have a picture of your pet with our box, send it in. So I did that not knowing that offer was out there, and I posted it on social, and they responded everywhere I posted it. Right. So what is that? That's that feedback loop of every time I get one, I want to take a picture. They're not even
Well,
giving me anything.
and it's also that, if I'm a brand, and my advice for larger companies is do not create your own content.
No,
Get
yeah.
enough people talking about you in social media that you can leverage their content,
Mhm.
because your content is not going to be nearly as persuasive as if it comes from an average person. So, I don't know if they're like leveraging and we know that user generated content performs best for brands. It performs best in advertising, including Facebook ads.
Yes.
It performs best in shopping carts on websites. So to me, it's all about user generated content, and it's all about getting people talking about you. So that's very, very smart. They were doing that. It'd be interesting to see
Yes.
if they reached out to you saying, hey, we'd love to use your content for our advertising. We'll pay you $100 for the creative. Here's a contract, but
Right.
I see a lot more of that happening over time as more and more companies realize, they can create an internal team of brand ambassadors that serve as their influencers.
Yeah.
And they can just, this idea sparked me when a consumer packaged goods company, they're a pretty famous global brand. And I spoke to their brand marketing team in Singapore at their Asia Pacific headquarters, and they were launching a new cosmetic brand.
Mhm.
And they were saying, well, if we don't use influencers, how are we going to get the word out about this new cosmetics? But they were also saying that some of the customers don't take good creatives. Like sometimes their photos could be
Yeah.
better with so they're actually creating a training program to train their influencers how to do better copywriting, how to take better photos, how to take better videos. And that, when you think of it that way, it's like, yeah, so there's employee advocacy programs where we train employees. Let's merge it together with our customers. Let's train everybody that knows, likes, and trusts us. And to me, that's the ultimate. And I know if you're a small business, this is something in the future. But to me, that's just the ultimate, and the ultimate feedback loop, way to get more great content generated, get more word of mouth, and once again, investing in people,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. It's that
And
feel
helping them
good
out again.
factor.
People don't forget, right?
No.
I mean, when I was in college, I'm aging myself, the Berlin Wall was crumbling, and my professor was from Czech. And he said, I will tell you, even after 40 years, people do not forget, right? And that comment has stuck with me, that when you do something good for someone, especially if you're a company, a business, people really do remember that. And this sort of taps into what Mark Schaffer talks about, the most human brand wins. And he has a lot of
Mhm.
anecdotes about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of the whole idea.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, there was a couple weeks ago, and I sound like I'm bragging about this, but this was very exciting for me. So Deco Art, who makes the paint, one of the paints that I use in every single painting, commented on my Instagram photo and wanted to use my photo, and I was so excited about it. I posted it on Facebook. I mean, I was telling everybody. But even beyond that, I said to them, like, this makes me want to do a painting with only your paints, like see how that would be. And it's just the way that it makes you invest in these businesses when they reach out to you like that is tremendous.
I agree. My wife and I love the sangria flight at California Pizza Kitchen. And one time I posted it in
Okay.
California Pizza Kitchen, they liked the post. They didn't comment, but I saw the like come in.
Yeah,
And
feels good.
that blew me away. It's like, okay, next time I'm going to take the photo at a better angle. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think we're used to businesses just completely ignoring us, and their customer service sucks.
Mm,
And so it really is empowering when they reach out to you and leave that personal, do that personal thing, especially over social media where it tends to get personal. So yeah,
yeah.
these are all things that every small business owner can do as well. It gets a little bit harder without having social listening tools, what have you, but just tap into your local community, tap into that community of people that are your target customers or target influencers. And I think that you'll see opportunities to engage, and help people, and from that make friends with influencers, and really expand your business.
Yeah. So if you're listening or watching the replay and you have an example where you've seen this work really well, let us know in the comments, and we can all kind of percolate on these ideas here. So how do you know, we've talked about with a bigger business, you'd set up tracking codes or coupon codes or something that would tell us this is working. We're small businesses. How do we know if it's paying off?
Yeah, so I think, if you're a small business and if you take orders manually, you ask people to say, "Hey, can you make sure that if, when you make the referral that you mention, your name?"
Okay. Yeah.
Especially if you want to give sort of a commission in the back end, which is totally fine. And in fact, by giving a commission, that's how you can better track it. Because if you don't give a commission, you can ask how they found out about you, but they may say they didn't remember or what have you. But if they have to mention your name in order to get like a discount, a discount, which might
Mm-hmm.
be tied to that commission, which is the best way to do it,
Right.
then you'll know. So I think, other ways is you look at your website traffic, or you're getting more inbound emails, you're getting more inbound phone calls. If it's working, if things are still static, even though you're working with 100 different influencers, something's wrong.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. All right, we have a comment here from Piggy Moon. It always surprises me when I get a human respond to me after I send an email. Yeah.
So use that to your advantage as the business owner. Of how many, when you just look at like Instagram comments in general, how many times are businesses commenting?
Yeah.
Think if you went in and I mean, the more local you are and the more relevant that content is, and you want to comment authentically. We're not talking about using bots or anything. I mean, it's going to get your name on the radar of people for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we've had some great examples. Do you have any others, like specifically thinking about real small that we can use?
Well, I might have to like dig into my book to find out more.
Yes. Let me share that link again for the book too.
But
Yeah.
I think the bicycle handlebar was a great example.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking in terms of my mastermind of a patent lawyer. This is, I mean, yeah, he's a lawyer at small business, but basically created a tool to allow you to, anybody can use this tool to file for a patent. So normally you have to hire a lawyer, it costs thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
If you use his tool, the tool knows what to ask for and uses AI to process what you tell it to into a patent application, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
Well, okay, so who are the influencers? Well, who are the potential customers? So he sees three different types of potential customers. He sees number one, other lawyers. They can save time. They can still bill the same hours,
Oh wow.
save
Yeah.
time, right?
Good deal.
So, well, who influences patent lawyers now? That this is a big question. It comes down to professional associations in some industries, right?
Yeah.
The other one is who are aggressive filers of patents. So I had individual patent lawyers. You also have corporate legal departments. They're filing patents to protect the IP of the company. And in fact, he used to be the chief legal officer at Invisalign. And so he sort of knows how that works.
Yeah.
The other one, the really interesting one, is startups. Startups always want a patent to protect themselves. And if they don't have a patent, they're not going to be able to sell their company and get investment and what have you. So getting a patent is really important. So he realized that incubators are influencers, right? Because they have tons of startups. If he can make friends with incubators, it'll get him in front of the startups that can use his service.
So true.
So yeah, it doesn't matter how big or small. It's just, once again, thinking who are the potential buyers and categorizing them if there are multiple, like in that case, and then who could influence them.
Okay. I love that. Okay. So we've talked about what we can offer, how we know it's working. It sometimes is hard to start that conversation. Do you have any suggestions on how to broach the subject with someone who may not really know you personally?
Yeah, this is where, I mean, social media, right? It's about sending social signals. If you really love crochet and you love like the sweater designs, I mean, I don't know, whoever that target user might be, and you really love their work and you know they'd be a perfect partner, and you recognize that they're probably influential, it really starts with genuinely actually going in and following them and liking and commenting on their content, but in a very, very authentic way.
Yeah.
Right. What I love about the smaller the business you have, the more passionate you are about what you do. So the more engaging and authentic your social media, engagement will be.
Agreed.
Because you genuinely, really appreciate who they are, what they do, their work. So it's about going in and sending social signals. What you find is, Alisa, I mean, we could talk about this. If you followed 100 people on Instagram, how many would follow you back, right? It's not going to be everyone. So not everyone's going to respond back, but you look for those people. And if you start with 20 people, right, it's like, okay, just, I don't want to be cringy. Just once a week, I'm going to go in and I'm going to, comment, engage on these 20 people's profiles, and I'm going to follow them. When 1 week later, when you go back in, how many have followed me back? How many have liked my comment? And those are the people that you want to focus on.
Yes.
The people that haven't, they may not be on social like this week for whatever reason, but you're going to find it's a funnel. It's a funnel of influencer relationships, just like your business, your marketing funnel. So you got the people at the top you're going to engage with. Some of them are going to engage back. And then those are the people who slowly, I'd give it a few instances in sales. My background's B2B sales. We say it takes between, 5 to 20 touches to convert a lead. So give it 5 to 8 weeks of weekly sort of engaging and getting on the radar, and then saying, hey, really love your work. I just want to let you know that, I'm doing a free workshop, or I have a partner program. I think you'd be a great fit because, of this and this. Would you be up for, depending on the coronavirus situation, meeting up for a cup of coffee if they're local, or just like a quick Zoom? And I think it'll be really, the key thing here when you message them, you want to keep it open-ended, but it's also about going back to my B2B sales background, WIIFM. I wonder who in the audience knows what that means. Let's get a little interactive here. WIIFM. Anybody know that? Raise your hand. You know what that means, right?
I know what that means.
Okay. Not everybody does. Okay. I'll have you say it then.
Okay. What's in it for me?
Exactly.
It's all about me.
You need to think of their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you need to lead with, right?
Yes.
You want to have an open-ended conversation about how you might be able to partner, but what's in it for them?
Great point. Okay. Phoebe Moon for the win. Yep. What's in it for me? That's exactly right. It's
so important with influence. So it's like reaching out to an influencer saying, hey, I'm going to give you a $25 Amazon gift card. Maybe they don't even shop on Amazon. Maybe to them, $25 is a slap in the face. They'd rather do it for free. Or maybe they want $100, right? But when you predefine these things without, really thinking creatively for each individual based on their unique profile, what's in it for them, that's the fail. And here's the thing. First impressions count. If you fail that first time, you're probably not going to get a second opportunity. Yeah. So become their friend, keep it wide open in terms of, what you want to talk about, but hint at what might be in it for them. Really think from their perspective, why they would want to respond back.
That's great. Yeah, this seems like a task for an Airtable or a spreadsheet, whatever you prefer, because it's very systematic the way that you
and it sort of comes back to PR, public relations, of engaging with people. And it's a skill that a lot of marketers don't have. They're used to the one-to-many approach, the spray and pray. They're not used to actually reaching out individually, which PR people are specialists at. This is why a lot of big businesses that are investing in influencer marketing have an influencer relations person for that very reason. It's PR, but it's for a marketing purpose, specifically influencer marketing. So you sort of want to become the chief of PR for your company.
For yourself, yeah.
Because people might dislike business owners, but PR people are usually cool with, right? Because they're not trying to sell you, they're not trying to cheat you, what have you. So
yeah. Very good. I feel like we've been through an awful lot today. I'm trying to see if we missed anything we planned to talk about.
You gave me quite the agenda, I might say.
I did. I liked to be prepared. Oh, that's good. So, finding the best influencers, starting a conversation with them. Okay, let's talk more about this one, because you mentioned before about becoming more influential yourself. So how can you kind of build yourself up as your own influencer?
If you reverse engineer every influencer out there, they become influential because they create content.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first step. They create content around a niche, around something. We have this term sort of like lifestyle, where if you're really famous, maybe, but if not, it's around a niche that will over time attract your tribe, right? But it's also a combination of not just creating the content, but going out and engaging with other people in your niche and befriending them so that they might follow you back or become interested in what you do. So I think it's a combination of things, but you got to be a content creator if you want to yield influence today. And I think it's a natural, because it's going to show off your business by doing it. For most average people that just have a passion, there's no ROI for them. They're just passionate about it, right? They might end up monetizing their influence, but you are able to monetize your influence, right? By
Hmm.
showcasing what you're passionate about, which is your business. So
Yeah.
for me, it's a no-brainer. And maybe it's you posting on your personal profile, not your business page. Your business page is for ads. Your personal profile is what's going to build know, like, and trust, because the algorithm is going to work in your favor. And
Very
people
interesting.
don't trust PDCA social. They might trust Neal Schaffer. It's the same thing, right? I don't really talk about my business brand. And I actually got this from Lewis Howes like 10 years ago. Like when I joined one of his webinars or something, it's all about him. If you look at the very bottom, I think it was like 226 Productions, maybe he was born February 26th, I forget. But he doesn't have like a 226 Productions business page. And I think
Hmm.
that's the winning formula. It's Pat Flynn. He has like Flynn Media, but that he talks about, but it's Pat. And I realized this, Alisa, like I said, when I was writing the book, I learned so much about myself. And I realized that people didn't want to work with me because I had a business site called Maximize Social Business or Maximize Your Social Podcast. They wanted to work with Neal Schaffer. They wrote in the contract, Neal Schaffer must personally do the consulting. So it's like, why am I trying to build these like business names?
Right.
I should just go out with my own name. So now that's not going to serve everybody, right? Wedding
Yeah.
photographer, maybe, but that's the mindset I want you to have. And in your profile, hey, chief wedding photographer at, Smith's Wedding Photography, whatever the name of your company is. But I would lead with your personal, and I would post what you're passionate about. And maybe for wedding photography, it's just photography in general. And people in your community that really love photography, some of them might be photographers that you can hire when you need extra photographers someday. Some people might be really interested in photography and therefore they really want to hire the best when they get married, or if they have a friend or a relative getting married, they can post a recommendation because they've seen your content. That's the type of mindset I want y'all to have. And over time, you will build influence. Most people quit. They remain inconsistent, or they just, it's creative. It's hard to create content regularly. So
It
don't say I'm
is.
going to post. I'm not saying I'm going to post, a reel every day till the end of the year. That's okay. 3 times a week, even that's pretty aggressive. So just start. When I work with real estate agents, I have this like graph, right? I say, okay, beginners once a month, intermediate once a week, advanced every day. Because there's so many people that don't even get started. So just once a month, just get started.
Yeah,
Post
just do
for
something.
November, get that achievement. And then from there, slowly see if you can get into a weekly cadence. And once you feel comfortable with the weekly cadence, like, wow, I have enough content for like 16 weeks, you can start to accelerate that twice a week, 3 times a week. But
Yeah.
that's the way to do it. You stockpile content over time and you batch, right? It's like one of the tips I give people when I go on business trips. I go on to Craigslist or TripAdvisor. I hire a photographer that usually takes pictures of families on trips, and they'll take pictures of me. Like I had one done in London, right? Like $200, and I got like 200 creatives from it, and I can use these on my website and on social media. And
Nice.
so I know influencers that will do that like every quarter. They'll go around. I live in Orange County, California. They'll go like on the beaches here or into like LA or Hollywood, and they'll basically create 90 days worth of content in a few hours. So that's,
Great.
the mindset I want you all to have when you think about your content for social media.
Yeah, and this group here does a really great job with creating content.
Awesome.
Yeah, so there are a couple things I want to unpack there before we let you go. But one is, I did see a discussion on LinkedIn this week. Is it better to use your personal name or come up with a business name for a consultancy or a freelance engage or a freelance business? I like what you said, and partially because that suits what I've already done. But now, is your company all you, or do you have employees as well?
I have, you could say, part-time assistants
Okay.
that I use for a variety of different tasks. The
Yeah.
majority of what they're used for, though, is actually for my own PR, my own sort of marketing
Yes.
infrastructure, rather than sometimes they're used for clients, but actually very rarely for various reasons,
Okay.
because most of my work is consulting. It's not agency work, right? When it
Yeah.
was an agency, I could leverage them more for that. So, but I still go by my name. It's the same thing with LinkedIn, right? I think that having a business profile gives you added credibility,
Mhm.
but the problem is, and you can ask you can actually invite your connections to like your page 100 each month. You have to go into your company page, but you can do that. The problem is that if someone finds you and they see that you have a company page and they see you only have 5 followers and they see you only have 1 employee, it's going to be pretty clear you're a small shop, right?
Yeah.
Which is why, I mean, I have a nealschaffer.com business page. I don't really pay attention to it, I've been able to get a lot of followers because I have a lot of connections. But at the end of the day, they're going to go to your website, is my feeling. So
Yeah, I
LinkedIn,
agree.
social media is only the gateway. Even LinkedIn, it's only the gateway. Once you have, if you have 3, 4, 5 employees, then I think it absolutely works in your favor. If they're all on LinkedIn and they say that they work at your company, it's going to look a little bit bigger. But otherwise, you're going to look smaller than you might
Yeah.
be. And I would sort of advise against it.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay. Final question for me. Please drop your questions if you have them for Neal. Is very self-serving. So you mentioned sharing your business content on your personal Facebook account. Now, I just recently started a Shopify store kind of as a marketing experiment, but I wouldn't mind selling some stuff in it either. So I have a business page for that on Facebook. I'll post stuff and get crickets, absolute crickets on that. And I could post the same thing on my personal profile or on Instagram and I get, 40, 50 likes maybe and a couple comments. That's amazing for me. But I feel like I should keep it on the page. But you were saying like, no, you don't have to.
Yeah, I think that having a business page in 2022 is almost demoralizing,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
You're like, why am I doing this? It's crickets.
Right.
What I've learned over time is the public, like the professional and the personal have been combined. So like 10 years ago, it's like, okay, LinkedIn's for professional, Facebook's for personal, and I'm gonna advise. But guess what? People want to support your career as well. So
Yeah.
you don't want to like overly promote your business with every post on Facebook. But the thing is that, your friends also want to support your business. So every once in a while, when you pop in there and go, hey, I just launched a new Shopify store, check it out, you're going to get great engagement because people want to support you. And that's because we're human. And you can really tap into that. The key is that you don't want to do every other post to be about your business. And when you do it about your business, you do not want it to look promotional at all. And that's something that's very, very hard for people to do because when they start to promote their business, they go into like promotion mode. But you got to remember social media is about people and it's about developing relationships with people, right? So if there's
Absolutely.
something in it for them, hey, I'm giving my friends a 50% discount, then that might be of interest. Or if you post like, I don't know, every day, maybe once a week, sort of pop in there with something of interest about
Yeah.
your business, whatever it might be. But that's the key is you don't want to be overly promotional and you don't want to do it too frequently. And if you can stay away from that, I think it makes total sense that you share your business. If you're on Instagram, maybe once every 9, considering like the 9 grid, maybe once every 6, once every 3 is pretty aggressive. It might work. But what you're going to find is your normal content gets the best engagement. Then when you post even semi-promotional business content, the engagement sort of goes down. And that's where your algorithm is going to take a hit. That's why you want to go back
Yeah.
to your normal content. Your algorithm recovers. And the more people that see the next time you post something promotional. So it's sort of a tug of war, give and take with the algorithm. And that's why you don't want to go too overboard so that you don't get that big of a drop, but also you don't do it too frequently in which the algorithm will hurt all of your other posts that you want to make sure that your friends see.
Makes total sense. Okay. Well, if you've been listening to Neal and you want to know more about him, you can find him at nealschaffer.com. His book, you can find that at the short link bit.ly Neal-influence. It's Neal, Neal, if you're listening on the podcast.
The real Neal.
The real Neal. Yeah. I know. I think I was just writing something about Mark Schaefer and then I had to spell your name and I had to. So close.
And then he
but
comes
so
up
different.
here. Yeah.
So close.
There's also Wes Schaefer, but anyway.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So you are what you call a fractional CMO, so Chief Marketing Officer. How did you get into that?
Yeah, great question. It's funny. I have a lot of people join my mastermind because they want to become a fractional CMO. So
Yeah.
I have a very, very holistic consulting practice. So I don't sort of say you need to do this. I want to be as serving to every single client in the way that I can be. So I speak fluent Japanese. I lived in Japan 15 years and my wife is Japanese and our kids are bilingual. So I know a lot of like local Japanese people. So one of them is like, hey, our company could really use your help. They're actually a leading hair color company selling into like Walmarts and CVS here. So I've been working with them for several years. And he said, we have a CEO who understands what you're doing. I'm going back to Japan and we have a junior marketing person who she doesn't really get like, digital and social the way you do, and she doesn't have that ROI mentality that you have. Can you sort of work together with her and come into our office
Oh, wow.
like a half a day a week,
Yeah.
right? And basically train her. And I said, I'd love to,
Oh,
right?
that's great.
So, and this is before coronavirus. What I noticed when coronavirus happened, that there was a big need to work remotely, right?
Sure.
For companies consulting. And so I said, okay, I am going to call this fractional CMO because I am the marketing leader. And there are different ways of leveraging marketing leaders. Part of it is creating strategy, reporting back to the CEO. Part of it is initiating a new program. So for one big company, I helped them launch their employee advocacy program. For others, it's influencer marketing. For others, it's just general. We need your help, and we want you to work together with our team like you're an employee.
Yeah.
So
That
the
makes
hallmark of
sense.
fractional CMO compared to general marketing consulting is the client is in full control of how my time is used, and it's completely transparent. It's completely hours based.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Right. And then from a business model perspective, you want to create sort of, guidelines that say, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do a one-off call. It has to be a minimum of, in my case, 3 months, minimum 1 hour per week. And then, well, if you want to hire me for a half a day, if you want to hire me for a full day a week, this is how much it's going to cost. And in order to maintain quality control, you can't overextend yourself. So you can't book 40 hours a week. Right.
Right.
And in my case, in your case as well, Lisa, we also have our personal branding, our podcasts, our social media, our books in my
Blogs,
case.
yeah.
So you do the math and you create a maximum of, I can only give, in my case, it's 24 hours. And even at 3 or 5 days, 60%, it's really, really busy. I'd like to reduce that, but it depends on how much business you have and how much you charge. And slowly with each iteration, as you get more clients, you sort of charge a little bit more. And that's how you do it. So I call it fractional CMO. Up until now, fractional CMO has been really this haughty sort of word, and former Fortune 500 CMOs. And no, you are a flexible marketing leader who is offering expert advice in any way that a client wants to work with you. And that to me has been really liberating. My business last year, I had my best year financially, and I've been doing this for a decade. And I think because I can do it when I was in Japan, I was doing it. And you don't have the speaking is like this. You can't see it's a wave, right? It also requires time, and it requires expense.
Yeah.
It's traveling time. It's little expenses here and there. The fractional CMO is very clear cut, right? And I have clients that sign on for 12 months. So it's a subscription service where you're going to get that revenue in month out. It allows you to invest in other things to help you. So I invest in all these people to help me save more time, right? For my fractional CMO consulting. So I think if you're in marketing, or I think it really extends to any type of organization or any type of discipline. I think it's a great business model, and I think more people should do it. And maybe I should start a fractional CMO professional association or something.
I think you should. You should. So if you'd like to work with Neal, it's Neal Schaffer, like real Neal Schaffer.
Real Neal.
Real Neal. And if you'd like to work with me, it's alisameredith.com. I can help you with product marketing, Pinterest marketing, content, and I would love to work with you. So I want to just share one last comment. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Neal, for being here. I'm glad we finally made this happen, and we will see you again soon. Bye, everybody.